I sprinted through the rubble-strewn streets of gayest city, my heart pounding in my chest like an alarm bell. The air was thick with smoke, acrid and stinging my nostrils as I skidded around the corner of a half-collapsed skyscraper. Cracked holo ads flickered overhead, advertising products long rendered obsolete in the chaos of our new reality. Below, the ground was littered with remnants of a world I barely recognized once, bright, buzzing with life, now a graveyard of forgotten dreams. "Eddie," the voice cut through the din, a lifeline in the storm. Caleb, my brother, was just steps behind me, his breath ragged as he clutched his side. The exosphere shield was collapsing over the city, and everywhere, panic had taken root. My pulse quickened. If he was here, that could mean only one thing. The Central Enforcers knew we were on the run. "Keep up," I shouted, glancing back at the glint of metal robotic scouts, their crimson sensors scanning the debris-strewn alley. They had sniffed us out again, a trailing scent of humanity drawing them in like sharks to blood. Adrenaline surged, propelling me forward, even as the dread of what might happen if I were caught clawed at my insides. We rounded another corner, and the world grew momentarily darker. A remnant of an old quarantine shield crackled in the distance, a faded remnant of our history, like a ghost haunting the ghosts. It felt wrong, yet familiar. It reminded me of our childhood, when we'd run through the city like we owned it, unaware of the barriers closing in around us. "I can't," Caleb wheezed, stumbling as he almost fell to his knees. I risked a second to glance back, catching the briefest shimmer of a metallic eye in pursuit. It loomed close, the outline of its sleek form merging with shadows. Time was bleeding away. I lunged forward, grabbing his arm before he could collapse. "You have to hold on, I need you." There was desperation tinged with something sharper, a silent plea. He was my tether to hope, to an uncertain future. If we didn't make it to the safe zone, everything would be over. I can't go on like this," he gasped. His words lanced through me. The weight of our shared history felt heavier with each word. I recalled the night we had sworn to save one another no matter the cost, how we'd become each other's secret weapon in this war for survival. Fighting tooth and nail to hold our fragmented family together felt like a Sisyphean task in this allied tyranny, where anything human was hunted like an animal. "You can, Caleb, just think of me." I couldn't let him falter. Not now. But the argument fell flat as soon as it left my mouth. Our youngest sister, the ray of light in our fractured lives, was gone. No manufactured comfort could fill the void of her absence, as the Central Enforcer's relentless pursuit had claimed her. Fumbled choices had drawn us deeper into the abyss, and now her brightly colored sketches adorned my mind like a hollow mural. Something inside me twisted, the welling ache of grief, guilt, and fury. I would not falter, not again. Time slipped away, and I forced myself to focus on the present. Caleb's gaze caught mine for a split-second. Blue-gray eyes, once full of promise and mischief, now clouded by fear. "I'll hold up if you can get us to the hatch," he said, his resolve sparking like a dying ember in the wind. The hatch, our last hope, buried in the depths of the abandoned metro. It could lead us to the underground resistance or something worse. The unknown was no stranger to us anymore. Still, the possibility tugged at me, tempting me with the mere chance of survival against the overwhelming odds. "Let's go." I pulled him in the direction of the crumbling metro entrance, weeds and concrete creeping like errant thoughts in my mind. The issue wasn't just getting there. It was all the unknowns that lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment to lash out. Rounding the entrance, the dim light flickered like my faith. The echo of our footsteps clashed against the concrete, a metronome setting the tempo of desperation. It intermingled with a faint hum, a melody I recognized, one tied to our upbringing, reminiscent of those half-forgotten family gatherings. A flicker of hope ignited, one that died down the instant I heard it, the unmistakable whir of drones above. "We're running out of time," I hissed, my fingers tightening around the emergency harness strapped around him. We had made it this far. We couldn't let the weight of despair snuff us out. But what if they catch us? Caleb's voice wavered, the unspoken fear raking through my mind. Then we fight, I replied, my voice scraping against the grit of uncertainty. We fight like we always have. The metal door shuddered as I shoved it aside. Every nerve in me screamed to retreat, but I couldn't. I wouldn't let the past dictate our present. We had come too far and lost too much. I was not going to relinquish that now. In the dim light ahead, I glimpsed the faint outline of shadows moving. I couldn't stop. We were too close now, too close to finding answers to the questions that had plagued me since Mee's disappearance. I pulled Caleb forward, plunging into the depths of the metro, heart racing, head spinning. The uncharted horror of the underground made my every instinct scream for me to turn back. I glanced at him, determined to protect him at any cost, but we could not escape the truth. We carried the weight of humanity on our shoulders, a burden that blasted through me like a siren's call. Just as I thought we were alone, a voice shattered the silence. A sudden shift in the darkness twisted my stomach, shooting adrenaline through my veins. "What are you doing down here?" I froze. The rush of urgency slipped beneath me like a tide, and dread loomed ahead, shrouded in the unfolding mystery. Whatever awaited us below, it was only then I understood the complexity of our reality and how it intertwined with our very existence. In those depths, perhaps lay the only secret weapon we humans truly possessed, the ability to ignite hope against impossible odds. And as I prepared to face the shadows, I realized that we were not alone. The figure stepped into the dim light filtering through a tangle of rusted pipes and debris. An older man, his face etched with years of hardship, yet his eyes shone with a spark of intelligence and defiance. He wore a tattered coat that had clearly seen better days, a makeshift utility belt strung low across his hip. A name Elias drifted to the surface of my memory. He had been mentioned in whispers among resistance sympathizers, a legendary figure who had fought alongside rebels in the earliest days of the conflict. "Who are you?" I managed, keeping Caleb behind me, my voice sounding too thin in the thick air. He raised an eyebrow, a sardonic smile curling his lips. "Well, if you must know, I'm the one who does the rescuing around here, not the running. So, you can stop pretending you were planning on breaching my home." Before my heart could regain a stable rhythm, I felt Caleb's breath quickening with fear. "Are we in danger?" he whispered, clutching at my arm. "No," Elias replied, lifting his hands as if signifying peace. "But you will be if you remain out in the open. You've attracted attention, and these tunnels are crawling with central enforcers." He glanced over his shoulder, as if sensing distant shadows creeping closer, sending a tingling chill down my spine. "Then what are we waiting for?" I urged, stepping into the dank chamber cluttered with the remnants of past civilization. Besides scattered equipment and illuminated screens reflecting fragmented images, the air was thick with a metallic tang, a reminder of the machines ruling our lives. "Lead us somewhere safe." Elias nodded toward a doorway behind him. "This way. It's tight, but it's our best bet for now." The sound of low, mechanized humming drifted closer, drones patrolling the higher levels, a constant reminder of our minor existence. We moved swiftly through the cramped passage, an atmosphere punctured by the residual tension of the previous chase. Each brush of our clothes against the walls echoed our turmoil, spinning a web of memories and fears, a tapestry of loss that tightened around us like barbed wire. Once we settled into a dimly lit room, I felt a momentary sense of safety, but shadows lingered at the edges of my consciousness, reminding me of me. I wound my fingers through my hair, exhaling slowly to mask the turbulence within. "Why were you waiting here?" I asked Elias, trying to deflect my grief into something tangible. "Are you just a scavenger?" Elias moved to inspect a battered screen, its faded blue glow illuminating the creases on his forehead. "Call me an archivist, if you will. I maintain the knowledge buried beneath the rubble of this city, all the things the central enforcers would prefer you forget." He glanced back at us, the intensity of his gaze honing in on our intertwined fates. And sometimes I help lost souls like you find their way." Caleb shuffled closer to me, and I felt the need to bolster him to protect his resolve. "You mentioned the enforcers. If this underground is their domain, why haven't they discovered you?" "Because I know the city's veins," Elias replied cryptically, "and I run where they don't think to look." "But they're getting smarter. They now leverage every piece of technology they can obtain, and they're looking for the remnants of resistance like yours." "Technological oppression," I murmured, a bitter realization washing over me. The walls were lined with dull screens, watching us, weighing us as if searching for some hidden flaw. "They know we're targets. They track us." "Yes," Elias affirmed, "and you can't outrun their gaze forever. That's why understanding the technology they employ, it can save lives." He hefted a small device from the table, a communicator. "This device connects us directly to those still fighting above ground. If you're serious about resistance, I may need your help." I felt my chest constrict. "What kind of help?" "The way the enforcers operate now." He trailed off, the weight of unspoken dangers palpable. "You have something they want. Pieces to the puzzle that could crumble their control." "What do they want from us?" Caleb asked, his voice barely above a whisper, but it held a fierce edge. The tremor was palpable, a tethering back to past horrors. "In knowledge," Elias replied, steepling his fingers together. "Or should I say, knowledge you no longer possess. Your sister was taken for a reason. Her sketches, her understanding of the human condition, they consider any form of potential rebellion a threat, even in its most innocent form." My heart lurched at the mention of me. I could feel clouds of fear and doubt creeping in on me. "What do you mean? She was just a child, she was innocent." "That's precisely what made her valuable," Elias said, his voice heavy with gravity. "Innocence and creativity are dangerous weapons. They harness them into something more, something terrifying to them." He looked between us, gauging our reactions. I could see Caleb's face pale further. We were still entangled in the web of our past, each thread a painful reminder of everything we had lost. "So what can we do?" I asked, my voice sharpened with purpose. "You can help us gather intel," Elias began, then turned serious, his expression a storm cloud of intensity. "But it will mean infiltrating the enforcer's high command. It will mean danger, risking everything for every moment outside these walls." "Are you asking us to become spies?" I questioned, the implication sending shivers down my spine. "Exactly. More than spies, though. Symbolic vanguards. I want you to represent the spark we need to rally others." Elias's eyes burned bright, full of conviction and struggle. "The resistance is fractured and afraid. We need to know their plans, their movements. We can use your knowledge of the city to disrupt their operations." I glanced at Caleb, who, despite the fear etched on his features, nodded slowly. "We've already lost so much. We won't lose any more." I felt my heart quicken, a mixture of terror and elation unfurling within me. "Okay, but if we're going to do this, I need to know everything. What kind of technology will we be dealing with? What can we expect?" Elias smiled with approval. "That's the spirit. We'll prepare you for the worst." As the flickering lights above cast shadows on the walls, I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight marked a turning point, a hinge upon which our fate swung. There were still too many variables, unanswered questions lingering like embers in the dark, but together, perhaps, we could navigate the labyrinth of our shattered lives. Caleb leaned in close, a whisper barely audible. "If we do this, you're still coming back for me. We're not losing what's left of our family." "I promise," I said, the vow solidifying in the marrow of my bones. A deafening series of thuds echoed above, sending vibrations down through the bowels of the tunnel. "It seems our visitors are early," Elias said, stepping swiftly to the wall and adjusting a panel. The clattering grew louder, the whir of drones overlapping with footsteps heavy above. "Get ready," he commanded, his authority palpable. In the heart of the encroaching darkness, the heat of determination swelled within me. From the devastation that brought us here, some innate sense of purpose ignited as we stood on the precipice of conflict, while the city continued to unravel. Without looking back, I gripped Caleb's arm, ready to face our fate. If it meant unearthing the truth, unearthing me, I would navigate this labyrinth with everything I had. The winds were shifting, and below, the whispers of the past beckoned for the future to emerge anew. The gears of our fight had started to turn, the resistance awakening in our shared resolve. And, as the fates of lives crisscrossed, the real question loomed: would we be the harbingers of more destruction, or the architects of something new? The flickering lights cast long shadows across the tunnel as Elias led us deeper into the labyrinthine maze of the underground. The echoes of footsteps above reverberated like a distant heartbeat, a reminder that danger lurked just beyond our fragile sanctuary. Each step we took seemed to echo our unspoken fears and aspirations, threading deeper into the fabric of our growing fight. This place has become a haven for individuals like yourselves. Elias spoke over his shoulder, his voice low but steady. People who have lost everything and refuse to be crushed under the weight of despair. I cannot promise your lives will be easy, but we will protect you if you're willing to face this battle. My mind raced with confusion and clarity in equal measure. Each revelation about me's significance twisted my heart further, but it also solidified my resolve. I couldn't allow her sacrifice to be in vain. Determination coursed through my veins, invigorating my spirit, while fear still gnawed at the edges of my sanity. "What will we be up against?" Caleb asked, his voice trembling yet firm, a subtle strength emerging from the cracks of his fear. "We'll need to gather intel on the inner workings of Central Enforcer operations," Elias answered, slowing his pace, his brow furrowed in thought. "They've ramped up their security protocols, dissecting every potential source of rebellion with ruthless precision. But there are vulnerabilities, there always are. Our goal is to infiltrate, gather what we can, and expose their tyrannical grip on human creativity." A wave of nausea rolled through me at the prospect of flying so close to the enemy. The weight of responsibility sat heavily in my gut, a palpable reminder that this was a path fraught with peril. But what choice did we have? To do nothing would be to allow the city to drown, to let me be just another statistic in a growing list of casualties. As we continued navigating the dim labyrinth, Elias guided us past doors that led to dark, cramped rooms filled with the hushed voices of others working fervently. An organized chaos made manifest in the flicker of screens and the hum of old tech. I glimpsed glimpses of faces hardened by loss and encumbered by survival, yet each one carried a flicker of hope, an ember in the oppressive darkness. "Welcome to the Resistance's stronghold," Elias said, gesturing to a broader room bustling with activity. "This is where we strategize, work to connect the dots between our scattered forces, and push back against the enforcers." To my surprise, a raven-haired girl stepped forward from behind a console, a tarnished luster to her blue jumpsuit, the signature garb of the underground fighters. "I'm Mira," she introduced herself, her voice assertive despite her youthful appearance. "We could use fresh perspectives. Even intel from the surface is crucial." I stepped forward instinctively, sensing Caleb's retreat behind me. I could see the wires of fear running through him still, a bond of brotherhood tethered by trauma. "What do you need?" Mira's gaze sharpened as she tapped away at a battered tablet. "We need eyes and ears inside. Sanctuary 51 is the nerve center of the Central Enforcer's operations. It's heavily fortified, but if we can learn what they're plotting, if they're determining how to leverage power against us, we can strike back." I nodded, absorbing the weight of her words. "And you want us to go in?" "Exactly." Her tone shifted, hinting at trepidation even amidst her fervor. "I can help with an intel extraction, the layout, and get you close to the command center without raising alarms." But there it was. A pause that spoke volumes, the unspoken understanding that the outcome would be dire, a path steeped in danger. "Is there a way to rescue me?" I dared to ask, my heart pounding in my chest. "Can we find her in there? Her fate may be more complicated than you think." Elias's voice brought a chill, an unsettling truth that our paths were intertwined by more than mere circumstance. The enforcers collect those who exhibit exceptional potential. They leverage talents, creativity like a twisted version of talent scouts. They may not have killed your sister. She could still be alive, a piece in their puzzle. A pang of hope bloomed within my chest, yet it was tangled with conflicting feelings, doubt, fear, but mostly the need for action. Then we will get in. We need to know how to help her before it is too late. Elias gestured toward a map of the complex pinned to the wall. You'll need to familiarize yourselves with the terrain. Mira will guide you as you prepare. The chatter around us faded, becoming a muted backdrop as I studied the hastily drawn markings and notes. Each scroll represented lives appended, people shattered by the draconian regime. Memories of my family enveloped me, heightening my resolve, but simultaneously festering scars of loss. The Central Command has multiple access points, Emira explained, prodding her finger at the map. But we'll take the service route to avoid the guards. It's risky, there are thermal scanners, but if we time our movement with shift changes, we might slip through undetected. I nodded, absorbing every detail while initiating the tension in my chest. What about weaponry? What will we use if we encounter enforcers? Old tech and ingenuity, she replied, matter. Of factly. This place doesn't have much. What we craft comes from scavenging, adapting, and sometimes flat out improvising. A smirk curled at my lips despite the gravity of the situation. It felt oddly familiar, pandemonium refined into a semblance of purpose. I glanced toward Caleb, whose eyes were wide but resolute. We're used to fighting with what we have, I said, reclaiming the ingenuity of our journey. Let's do it. The atmosphere tightened like stretched string, a moment suspended in time before launching us into the chaos. With a nod from Elias, we began our preparation. We sifted through the equipment, assembling makeshift weapons crafted from gathered debris, faint remnants of what once thrived before the iron grip of the enforcers suffocated our spirits. Mira led us to an equipment room where odds and ends lay scattered about. Each item felt like a microcosm of hope amidst despair. A pulse of quiet resolve filled the air as I trapped my hands around the hilt of an old, rusted blade transformed now, a symbol of defiance rather than despair. What's this? Caleb held up a sleek firearm, its contours still exuding a faint glimmer, albeit dusty. Stun gun. Old, of course, but it'll pack enough of a punch to give you time to escape if the worst happens, Mira assured him, collecting the scattered essentials. Be careful, these aren't toys. We're not here to kill, just stall if we get cornered. The weight of the moment descended upon us, responsibility defining our roles as we prepped for the unfolding night. With each item we collected, I felt the bond between us strengthen, transforming fear into a tangential purpose. We completed our preparations and made our way back to the main chamber, bubbling tension thrumming beneath the surface as more faces emerged from the shadows, ready for the battle. It felt surreal. Somewhere amidst this chaos, I had found a flicker of belonging. Remember, Elias said, his expression solidifying as he gathered our small group around him. This is about something greater than yourselves. We cannot fail, and your lives matter in this fight. If this city is to breathe again, it needs every spark of rebellion to ignite the flame. A wave of energy coursed through us, fear, fury, heartbreak, and hope. And we stood shoulder to shoulder despite the cacophony of iron walls surrounding us. Before the night enveloped us, I glanced at Caleb, searching for the flicker of reassurance in his gaze. Together, I murmured, a promise shared in the echoing silence. The adrenaline surged through me, each heartbeat aligning with the drum of resistance. While uncertainty lingered, we were not alone. The remnants of our past converged on the horizon. And as the clock ticked toward our mission, every moment crystallized, its potential teetering on terror and transcendence. Whatever lay ahead haunted us, but we would face that darkness together. The city's broken dreams called out, waiting for reclamation, ready to rise once more if we were courageous enough to embrace the fight. Above, the central enforcers spiraled in their relentless patrols, unaware that the very lifeblood of their control was now ready to return, to defy the odds against forces far greater than us, and to piece together the fragments of our shattered world once and for all. The air buzzed with a tension that hung over us like the smell of impending rain. We had outlined our extraordinary plan, armed ourselves with remnants of a bygone era, and gathered the muted courage of spirits battered but not broken. Camaraderie forged in the depths of the underground burgeoned into something profound, a tide swelling against the oppressive current of the central enforcers looming above us. There were 10 of us now, an eclectic band bound together by necessity and conviction. With Mira at the lead, mapping our path with agility born of familiarity, we trekked deeper into the complex. Our fingers brushed against makeshift weapons, and I could hear my pulse echoing in my ears, a relentless metronome setting the pace for our clandestine revolution. "Remember to stick together," Mira was saying, her voice a low whisper, but it felt like a rallying cry. "Communication is key. If someone gets separated, we regroup back here." Caleb was beside me, nestled in resolve, yet an undercurrent of worry danced behind his blue-gray eyes. He glanced at me, wordlessly seeking affirmation as he squeezed my hand, his anchor in the coming storm. I released a slow breath, reminding myself that the fire of hope we had ignited could not be extinguished by fear. As we neared the entrance to Sanctuary 51, the tension in the air thickened even more, wrapping around us like a shroud. The entrance loomed ahead, a gaping maw flanked by hulking pillars decorated with archaic tags. Faded tribal designs long erased by the hands of cold bureaucracy. The guards inside felt like ghosts wandering a forgotten realm. We were forced to tiptoe around them, lest they spring to life and confront us with the wrong question. "Stick to the shadows," Mira instructed, her gaze flitting towards the guards. "We'll use the side passage, less visibility, until we reach the inner sanctum." The closer we got, the more palpable the energy crackled in the air, swirling like a storm brewing beyond the horizon. My heart drummed in rhythm with the collective breath of our makeshift resistance as we steadied ourselves. The entrance was covered in digital surveillance, a blinding array of camera lenses glinting like the cold eyes of a predator. My grip on my weapon tightened as adrenaline surged through me. This was it. Mira paused at a panel on the wall, one that looked scratched and weary. "Give me a moment," she said, working furiously to decipher the panel's code. A rush of uncertainty bubbled beneath my stoic mask as I surveyed the quiet hole, the echoes of voices intertwined and smothered in the sterile air. Almost there, Mira murmured, sweat beading on her brow. With every second that ticked away, I could feel the tension pulling taut, an invisible line that seemed ready to snap at any moment. Caleb's grip on my hand loosened momentarily, and I turned, seeking comfort in his presence, but I saw it. The shifting shadows that moved like liquid. My instincts screamed, a warning that choked the air between us. "Mira," I hissed, urgency lacing my tone. "Got it," she exclaimed as the panel emitted a quiet whir and lit up with a soft glow. Without waiting for encouragement, we slipped through the entrance into the dim corridor beyond, the searing light of the outside world swallowed whole by the steel-lined darkness. The world outside faded as we plunged deeper into the bowels of Sanctuary 51. Once inside, we fell into the eerie silence punctuated by distant mechanical whirs and the muted hum of generators. They seemed to pulse like a heartbeat connected to something much larger than ourselves. We braced ourselves against the cold walls, advancing in a single file line, listening for voices or hints of movement. The air was congested with animosity, a chilling reminder of the power wielded by those who had taken my sister. As we maneuvered through the labyrinth, I couldn't shake the realization that inside this steel fortress resided not just our mission, but me's very existence. The thought tugged at the corners of my heart, threatening to unravel my focus. "Here," Mira whispered, halting us in front of a rust-stained door marked by a flickering light. "This is the command center." We leaned against the wall discreetly, listening to the conversations inside. A mix of disembodied voices droned, ominously discussing logistics, enforcement strategies, and recon missions. "Infiltration is necessary before we begin Phase 2, one voice concluded. The simulations show rising descent. This city is at a breaking point, and we cannot afford complacency. Caleb's fingers tightened in mine, an echo of the unease swirling within him. "What do you think Phase 2 is?" he whispered, and dread pooled in my stomach at the uncertainty of it all. I shook my head slightly, unsure of how to articulate the bleakness swimming in my chest. "We need to get inside and access their mainframe. That's where we can find anything connected to me." We steeled ourselves, clenching the makeshift weapons that had become extensions of our frail hopes. On my count, Mira whispered, her voice steady. 3, 2, 1, go. With that, we barreled into the command center, blending chaos with purpose. The room exploded into a cacophony of shouts as we surged forward. "Stop them," a guard yelled, reaching for his sidearm. Instinct took over as I deflected the first guard, sending him crashing against a terminal, the sound reverberating through the air as his body crumpled. Each movement felt like a dance, a mixture of survival instincts and fear. Caleb swung beside me, an intensity radiating through him as he contributed to the chaos. Instinctively, he moved by my side, mirroring my every decision as I fired the stun blaster we had inched so close to acquiring. One guard went down, a flash of light illuminating the room as he fell. "Hold the door," I shouted, and the others blazed into action. Mira bounded toward a console furiously, her fingers a flurry moving across the screen as the alarm system blared like an impending doom. I'm in with every whir of machinery, every flicker of the glowing screens. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs like a wild thing desperate to escape. "Can you find anything on my sister?" Caleb shouted, panic edging into his voice as he battled another guard. "Give me a moment," she shouted back, the urgency in her voice rising like a tide. Our fight felt impossible, and yet the air buzzed with the thrill of belonging as I pushed through, moving like a shadow against the searing fear that threatened to consume me. The room was chaos. Smoke from the gun they had turned against us filtered laughs as we fought amongst the flickering lights and terminal screens. Each passing second heightened the stakes, every thud against the walls like a clock counting down the lives hanging in the balance. "This should give us access," Mira shouted, her hands dancing at the controls as if conjuring spells. "We need to cover her," I shouted to the group, taking a step forward to back her up. In that moment, chaos escalated even further. The alarm screamed, and the room was flooded with harsh white lights that felt like invasive blades piercing through our fervor. "Can you hold them off?" Mira asked, her voice determined even as it trembled. "Well, yes, just get what you can. We'll cover this ground," I shouted, stepping back enough to create a barrier between her and the approaching guards, gripping my makeshift weapon tighter. The lights in the room surged as Caleb and I fought side by side, one against many as everything circled faster toward the eye of the storm. Our abilities fused amidst the factors spiraling out of control, feeding my senses with energy as the adrenaline became a euphoric blanket that shielded us from despair. "Me," I whispered, breath trembling with each dive into the fray. "We can't lose you." Mira's voice lifted above the chaos. "I found her data. They've been keeping her in a separate holding cell. This could be our only chance." The culmination of our collective fight surged forth. Momentum twisted as the bad air cleared just an inch, a crack in fate wide enough to grasp. "Where?" I demanded, pressing toward her, desperate for clarity. "Straight blocks down. I'll secure access," she shouted, the screens illuminating her determination. "Let's move," I yelled toward the others, and we propelled ourselves with reckless hope, carving a path through the impending darkness. Just then, a jarring explosion rocked the room, fissures reverberating through the core like a whisper of doom. Another wave slammed the guards against the walls, hurled by those unseen. I took the moment of disarray to aim at the nearest central terminal. "And now," I yelled, our voices tangled in the tumult, charging into the chaotic blur as we regrouped. The room came alive in the clatter and clang of metal twisting, striking against ever greater odds. The shadows ebbed against the light, but we were unified, a tumultuous tide turning the momentum our way. "Go. The holding cells are just beyond this corridor." Caleb shouted, pushing forward as I followed closely, nearly pressing past him. We dashed past yet another barricade, the sound of our boots mingling with the frantic stops and starts of those we left behind. As I rushed forward, my heart was a wild thing, thumping and thrumming at the edges of sanity as the goal neared. We'll watch each other's backs, Mira called, rallying our spirits as we burst out into another hallway, glossy and blinding with steel. This way, hurry. Our breaths were eager and tangled as we pressed on, the thuds of footsteps behind us chasing the fervor in our hearts. Hold the line, I yelled out, spurring us onward against the rising dread creeping at our heels. And then they appeared, central enforcers spilling into the narrowing corridor, silhouetted shadows showing eyes glimmering like machines of war ready to pounce. We fell into a tight formation every breath, every heartbeat ignited into purpose as we melded into one another, protecting ourselves from the empty blows of destiny, careening toward our plot's climax. Caleb, I shouted as I turned to fire against the approaching waves, but then the world shifted around me. They moved in sync, inching as I stood back, pulling together to slam through the line as the tangible weight of fear began to take hold. Get me? Caleb shouted, his voice sharp as he engaged the first guard, momentarily distracting him from the onslaught. With my heart racing, breaking free of the confines that chained us, I surged toward the door down the hall. This is it, I shouted over my shoulder. Mira led the charge, her knife glinting dangerously in the dark. We slammed toward the holding cells, fingers trembling with anticipation, desperation fueling our every thought as our bodies raced through the threshold. As we neared the metal doors, I could feel the crack of promise beneath my skin. Just a bit more, I urged, crashing against the door with all my weight. It burst open with a metallic screech, unveiling another stark illumination. A holding cell, forgettable and haunting. And there, in the shadows, my sister. Me, my voice cracked, the sound of her name spilling from my lips with longing and terror. In that instant, the world fell silent. The overwhelming chaos that had consumed us turned into an abated breath as my heart raced to the forefront of reality. Standing before us was a glimpse of something sacred, something worth fighting for the embodiment of all we had risked. The sight of her small frame curled among the remnants of the shambles sent shock waves cascading through me. I rushed forward, reaching for her, trembling to break the bounds that had held her captive. She looked up, her eyes wide, a hint of recognition flickering behind the pain as she stirred to life amidst their forgotten apparatus. Eddie, me, I gasped, elation pounding in rhythm with the chaos swirling around us, the soldiers closing in, our time slipping like grains of sand. Help, please, it hurts, her voice wavered. I lunged forward, my heart heavy with conflict. As I reached for her, an echo resounded through the holding cell. The remnants of our time apart crashing back in waves felt like an eternity. But I couldn't take that risk. Without thinking, I pressed a finger to my lips, urging her to stay quiet as I crouched beside her. We're here. We're going to get you out. I looked back at Caleb, who was fighting off guards determined to seize us back. Their presence darkened the light spilling between us. A surge of urgency demanded we move and maneuver. Mira rushed past me, the glint of determination in her eyes as she began disabling the locking mechanisms of the holding cell. With every failed attempt, it felt like seconds racing against minutes, the grip of desperation tugging harder. Who are you? Me asked, her breath stilted. Where's Caleb? I fought to speak, but the words caught like thorns stifling every impulse. He's right here. Just keep calm. With one last flick of her wrist, Mira managed to free the constraints locking me in place. Go, quick, she shouted, forcing the door of the holding cell open. I turned just as I felt a gentle tug on my arm, my sister released from a prison of darkness. Let's move, Caleb shouted again, rushing to our side, his resolve shimmering bright despite the shredding chaos behind us. In one motion, we began retreating down the corridor, the adrenaline surging through us. Moving like a storm-born wave, we surged through resistance as central enforcers, fierce with fury, converged behind us. The noise swelled, echoing as we barreled past. I turned back to register everything. The frantic motions of life spiraling around us mixed with shadows closing in. "Mira, where do we go?" I yelled, the words torn between urgency and desperation. "This way," she called, guiding us through a labyrinth of metal and shadows, weaving amid debris and forgotten technology. Me stumbled beside me, her body fighting to release itself from a numbness that descended from captivity. "Me, just hold on," I whispered, fear creeping in, but as we surged deeper into the warren of the sanctuary, I saw glimpses of a new reality amidst the turmoil. The corridors blurred, and before I knew it, we burst into an open area, only to find even more enforcers standing guard. We skidded to a halt, and I turned back, my heart hammering like a trapped beast. Cornered, Caleb breathed, an unwavering determination in his eyes even as he fought to regroup. "Wait," Mira shouted as she set her eyes on a control panel nearby, frantically tapping at it. "I can override the doors. Get ready." The guards began to filter toward us. We couldn't afford to hesitate. "Get me behind us," I urged, pushing her gently to shield her as we prepared for another wave of confrontation. Mira gritted her teeth as she continued her work, every second stretching out like an eternity. "I just need another moment. Can't we just go?" I urged, aiming my weapon at the advancing guards. Then in a flash everything exploded. An eruption that slammed through the air and shook the ground. The sound reverberated as the walls trembled around us. A rift of chaos surged forward, shadows scrambling against light as time shuddered in an indiscernible heartbeat. In the tumult, I glimpsed the guards falling back, their forms tossed into disarray. But as the dust settled, a cotter of central enforcers barreled into sight, determined and aggressive. The world spun. Each guard was a fierce instrument of cruelty, and instinctual fear shot through me. "Mira, now," I yelled, the panic wavering against the push of chaos. Just as the guards lunged forward, the control panel lit up with a blinding flash, a disconnect ripping throughout the sanctuary. The veils of steel screeched as the doors slid open, and Mira shouted, "Go now." Without hesitation, we surged through, our ragtag group moving like a single organism, bound by desperation and hope as we dashed down the alternative path. The shadows lurked behind us as we burst onto the surface, the cool night air embracing us like a long, lost friend. We stumbled down the concrete staircase, light flickering above us, a beacon navigating us through the fragments of our fallen lives. "Keep moving," I yelled as Caleb and I surged forward, clutching me close, our legs driving with unyielding fervor. The echoes of life surged in front of us. The city a sprawling expanse, a realm we had worked to reclaim after so long hidden beneath. My heart surged with determination. Me was with us, and suddenly every fractured memory, every shred of loss, became the unbreakable foundation of our fight. The reality hit me all at once. Beneath the shrapnel of years gone by was potential greater than any could imagine. A rebellion blazing brighter with every life we saved and every truth uncovered. As we sprinted toward the chaos unfolding above, the dawning horizon beckoned, yet the questions loomed like shadows. How could we bring the fight into the light? How could we build a future among wreckage? But for now, we were alive together, and our fight was far from over. The next steps were uncertain, but as long as we had each other, the embers of hope would keep flickering even amid the darkest of nights. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but for me's sake, and for everyone like her, we would rise against the tide, crafting each moment into a flicker of rebellion, an uprising to restore what had long been lost. And perhaps, just perhaps, we would finally break the shackles that bound us, marching toward a hope that promised the very light we yearned to reclaim. The reverberating chaos of the city pulsed beneath our feet, a tangible reminder that we were not just alive, but alive amidst revolution. As we navigated the haphazard passages of Gaius City, each heartbeat felt like a battle cry to reclaim everything we had lost. The night flickered with both danger and promise, a fine line between despair and hope that nourished our resolve. With each step, The fractured pieces of our family unit fell into place, reassembling a tortured history that bound Caleb, me with an indelible thread. We were entwined not only by our blood, but forged anew in shared struggles and the harsh reality that every decision could inch us closer to salvation or doom. The weight of our fresh resolve surged through me as we moved carefully away from Sanctuary 51, propelled forward by the faint flickers of expectation lighting our way. But the breathing remnants of fear lingered like a specter trailing behind us. The central enforcers would not take our escape lightly, and they would be hunting for what they could not control for so long. "Where do we go now?" Me asked, her voice a fragile whisper despite the culmination of triumph that coursed through our veins. The reality of freedom was intoxicating, yet monstrous echoes of anxiety rippling as the welcome warmth of our reunion settled in. Caleb turned toward me, determination etched into his features despite the fatigue etched on his skin. "We need to regroup, find the resistance, fortify our position. The enforcers won't rest until they retrieve whatever it is they want from us." He glanced over his shoulder, casting furtive glances into the shadows that loomed, an ever-present reminder of the danger we were in. "Elias will have contingency plans in place. He's been preparing for this," I assured him, steeling my resolve. "We just need to keep moving, move deeper into the alleys toward the safe houses. I won't let them take you again, me." The promise hung between us like a tightrope, each nuance of freedom threatening to unravel as we traversed the outskirts of the city teeming with life and struggle. I led the way, taking alternate routes through alleyways dimmed beneath neglected starry skies, creating a path through the smog that obscured our view. The world above us bristled and roared, the drones patrolled tirelessly, hunting for the remnants of our fledgling rebellion. The city was a resting giant, steeped in decay yet alive with potential, and we were small, embers flickering through the storm, ready to ignite the dormant fire. We turned a corner sharply, my senses sharpened, instincts dictating our hurried movements when the unmistakable sound of mechanized whirs filled the alleys. "Faster!" I hissed, the urgency slicing through the cool air. Before I knew it, shadows moved around us in swift pursuit. I glanced back, and the sight of the familiar metallic guard closing in triggered a surge of adrenaline as it locked its crimson sensors onto us. "They're onto us. We need a distraction," I barked, the noise from the drones blaring louder, colliding against the other cacophony of life unfolding around us. Caleb gripped me's hand tight, urging her forward as I looked around for anything we could use. A barricade, a flammable object, anything. My racing heart thrummed with the heat of survival. There, at the end of the alley, I caught sight of an abandoned ship rusting against the concrete, cloaked in shadow but painted with memories of energy once alive and vibrant. "In there!" I yelled, adrenaline propelling us toward the makeshift vessel. Caleb nodded in synchronicity as we closed in, shadows creeping behind us. We lunged into the narrow opening, the darkness wrapping around us like the embrace of old history. The ship's innards were littered with fragmented remnants of the past, an old cockpit filled with instruments that had once guided its journeys and taken its passengers on their wild adventures. I closed the gap between us, sealing the door behind me, clenching my fists as I took in our surroundings. "Can you start it?" I asked, peering around the cockpit. Ancient scrawls and blinking instruments lined the walls, enough remnants to suggest forgotten functionality. Caleb moved to the main console, scanning the dust-covered buttons. "I can try, but I've never worked on anything like this," he said, his brow furrowed in concentration. I could hear the heavy thuds of metallic feet echoing outside. The air grew stale, thick with expectation. "You don't need much to learn all that you need," me added, her voice steady even amidst the chaos of uncertainty that enveloped us. "Just pick something and make it work. You've always been resourceful." "Thanks, I guess that runs in the family." I chuckled despite the imminent danger, but it fueled something vital within me. Hope glimmering against despair. I turned back to Caleb, grounding us with a steady gaze. "We've come too far to give up now. Just think of me." She's waiting for us to get out of this place. With resolute determination, both my brother and I surged forward, repairing, tweaking, and rebuilding the flailing remnants of their escape route. Caleb furrowed his brow, fingers dancing across the dilapidated controls, and despite the uncertainty, every moment struck a chord of determination to forge ahead into the unknown. An exhalation of breath slipped through as the lights flickered on momentarily. The ancient vessel came to life with a sputtering mechanical groan, sending a ripple of exhilaration through the cockpit. "It worked," Caleb exclaimed, the joy bursting like tiny flames against the encroaching darkness. But the moment echoed dimly. We could hear shouts outside, footsteps surrounding the ship, steady and relentless. "We don't have much time," Mi chirped, keeping her tone light, even as her expression danced between hope and worry. "What's next?" "EI 232, engage manual pilot," Caleb commanded, his voice firm despite the urgent chaos just beyond our fragile sanctuary. "We are lifting off." The grumbling of the ship echoed through the air, but as Caleb punched controls, I could feel the tremors vibrating against my chest. A fragile pulse of something greater than just flight against oppression. The ship trembled for a moment, hesitating as if caught in the web of our fears. "Come on, you can do this," I cheered, willing the lifeblood of their existence to rise against the weight of the gloom. The ship shuddered again, and just as the guards thundered at the door, we took off, the exhilaration of speed smashing into the waiting chaos surrounding us. There was a point, an exhilarating station of lean force before we broke through the thick scabs separating us from the open sky above. And just like that, the city unfurled beneath us, a broken mosaic of lost dreams, whispers of despair dancing on the wind. But still, it thrummed with the beating heart of human ingenuity and courage. As we ripped through the skies, I felt both the weight of history behind us and the hope swelling forth. A collective breath echoing above the stifling breaths of sorrow. "Now what?" Me asked, looking around. "Elias," said, "the resistance is moving to face down the Enforcer stronghold in the North Quadrant. We must help contribute to the activities." Her gaze lit up. Her spirit awakens with grit. Just then, the sound of the nearby drones reminded me that we were still within the crosshairs. But the moment we began seeking a path forward, everything shifted. Though the hunt behind us threatened to press itself against our sails, it seemed like the world had shifted. The elation in the cockpit propelled us, and suddenly, an idea struck with an urgency that cascaded through me. "Let's head to the old Dome District," I suggested suddenly, the thought erupting forth from the depths of memory. That abandoned area holds a treasure of forgotten tech. Some of us have been scouting it in the past months, knowing it might still have defenses and fortifications we can reactivate. Caleb nodded quickly, gripping our shared history like a lifeline. "That's a perfect diversion. We can coordinate our next move from there. If we can turn it back on, we may have an upper hand." The urgency ignited our thoughts, translating frantic survival into reclaimed purpose. And thus we adjusted our trajectory, slicing through the air toward our destination like shimmering steel. The Dome District rose violently against the skyline, a testament to hope, a relic housing whispers of innocent laughter and memories lost in the wake of time. The shadows of our past crept alongside us as we hovered above the remnants, weaving a tapestry of dreams discarded and memories reaching out in lament. With each passing second, the tension mounted in the cockpit as we proceeded toward the dilapidated expanse. "Steady," I urged, connected to the pulse of every beat. "We'll manage this together. We won't let it go to waste." As we glided over the ruins, I felt the flicker of renewed purpose igniting beneath the layers of dust that masked both loss and potential. The layers of life hung thick in the air, and a sense of exploration tempered the fear that had taken root during our flight. "Land here," Caleb indicated, pointing toward an opening in the debris-strewn landscape. With a heavy thud, We touched down amid ruins steeped in the ghosts of our memories. Flickers of hopes unrealized etched into the very ground. As the engines hummed to a soft murmur, we hopped out, adrenaline coursing through us and pulsating against the scarred earth. The square lay before us, remnants of what was once alive surging forth like a song buried deep in memory. "Let's go," I called out, courage weighting us toward the debris, through an entrance that led deeper. An ethereal silence surrounded us, isolating the world as we stepped forward with purpose. The uncertainty whispered through the air, waiting to be revealed. "Hey, over there." Caleb pointed toward a rusted terminal half buried beneath crumbling stone. "It looks like it might be intact." With determined strides, we made our way forward, clambering over broken stone and twisted metal. Every gesture a reminder of battles fought, sacrifices endured, and the legacy of lives shackled beneath the iron fist of the central enforcers. Every step felt charged, more than just symbols of survival, but hearts ripe for change. "Mira, can you open it?" I called, glancing at her as we approached the terminal. She crouched as the dust settled around her feet, her fingers deftly working through the locks that had captured this fallen technology in suspension. "I'm on it." Her fingers danced across the faded controls, coaxing life from their unforgiving slumber. Every tick seemed to echo through our veins, building anticipation as the lights flickered to life, illuminating faces etched with resolve. Suddenly, feedback rolled back from the terminal, a low hum of life awakening as its connection slowly entwined with the whispers of past knowledge. "Perfect," Mira exclaimed as the readouts expanded, revealing the one lost defenses buried within the district. As layers of data poured forth, a flicker of realization illuminated my thoughts. The foundations were ripe for reclamation. The terminal crackled with renewed energy, sifting ancient blueprints and schematics to life. "Look," I gasped, catching a glimpse of the blueprints flickering on the screen. "The dome has hidden defenses. We can repurpose this to fortify many strongholds across the city, use them as shields against the enforcers, and create traps they won't see coming." The excitement bloomed like fireflies in the twilight, igniting us with fresh hope. "This is the breakthrough we've needed," Caleb cheered, eyes shining with renewed conviction. Moments turned to minutes as we pooled our resources, digging into the heart of the vessel's long-lost pieces mighty enough to form an arsenal where we could emerge as more than mere shadows. Spurred onward by the burgeoning pulse of possibility, we plotted and strategized. "Mira, look at this," Mi exclaimed, her small form rising with untainted wonder. "These weapons systems, they could help defend the other enclaves. We could respond to the enforcers' attempts before they even know what hit them," Caleb added, a fervor igniting in him as ideas poured forth like a river swelling against the banks. As the pulse of the abandoned trade neighborhoods flowed back into our bodies, I felt each idea radiate as a lifeline bound to something larger. The idea of family, of more than survival. Our lost sense of community surged back, invigorating us to step into the light. But we're not just pieces to be moved around. Here, we're reclaiming our agency. As we combed through the terminal, marshaling together strategies and resources, the pieces clicked into place. The echoes in the distance warned us time was short, yet with every heartbeat we solidified our resolve. Allies emerged, connections woven beneath the surface of the wreckage beckoning us toward the greater battle ahead. "Take care of each other out there," I said as each new ally emerged through the shadows, weaving themselves back into the fabric of humanity. Together, we can reclaim our lives and forge a new destiny. Our fight begins anew. Together, we stepped away from the ruins, fortified with hope and the specters of our past, into the unknown darkness of the city. A blend of chaos and tenacity, woven together in the tapestry of liberation. Every heartbeat resonated through us, like an anthem echoing against the storm. We would challenge the night, fighting against the tyranny that had long shadowed our existence, and prepare ourselves for what lay ahead. A new dawn waiting just on the horizon as the rebellion began to rise and reclaim the true essence of our home, gayest city. And so, with every step we took, we began to forge a new path, a promise to rise against the tide of oppression together. The struggle ahead would not be easy, but we had just made our stand, the fight had begun, and our souls resonated with the hope to reclaim a world that we had lost. As the stars shimmered above us, a tapestry woven from sparks of tenacity, courage, and unyielding resolve pressed into our hearts. We would rise. We would fight, and as whispers of change intertwined with the horizon, our story was set free, thrumming with life, ready to challenge what had once held us captive. The cold breeze of dawn tore through the remnants of gayest city, a trembling murmur whispering through the ruins. It ghosted across the fractured concrete, wrapping around us like an omen as we stood atop a once bustling plaza, now reduced to silence, a battleground reclaimed. Together, forming a patchwork assembly of heartbeats and intentions, we prepared for the final conflict against the central enforcers. The night before had burst into a tempest of collaboration. The nominal powers we had lost now invigorated us, surging through our veins with every decision that unfolded at the Dome District. We had dipped into our pasts both the horrors and the flicker of lost dreams, to forge a new tale united by insatiable hope. As dawn broke, I felt the duality of anticipation and dread shudder inside my chest. "We'll set up defenses here," I directed, waving a hand toward the shattered remnants of towering domes, their steep arches draped in vines. "Reboot the weapons and reinstate protective measures." The group dispersed with familiar urgency, hands melding with memories as bodies poured into action with the fluidity of a united front. Caleb moved with unwavering determination, a sense of maturity anchoring him that hadn't existed when we first began this fight. He crossed side by side with me, their voices working together, ideas snaking through the air like tendrils of smoke. Watching them filled me with raw sense of urgency, shimmering around us amid the actions that surged forth. I turned back, my heart igniting anew as I glanced around our makeshift quarters. The shadows of the previous night clung to the very structure of our plans. Knowing we could emerge from that cold darkness only fortified our aim, binding me closer to the power of unity. "This will be our last stand," I said, my voice raising above the din as people gathered, scrambling to prepare our defenses amid the wreckage. "But standing together, we will forge our own future." A murmur of agreement washed over us. The flicker of weapons igniting, the gathering of resources, it all pulsed to life. A chorus of rusted machinery, whispers of industry, and the metallic grind of survival. We embraced the weight of possibility, a collective resonance binding us together. Mira emerged from the shadows of the plaza, wiping grime from her palms onto her jumpsuit, her focus unwavering. "We've got intel about a central rendezvous for enforcer operations," she reported, her eyes sparkling with adrenaline. "They've heightened their patrol routes. This operation is larger than we imagined. How can we disrupt them?" I asked, a myriad of scenarios flickering through my mind like an age-old tableau, each more dire than the last. "If we can hack their communication systems, we can disrupt deployment and generate confusion across their ranks," she proposed. "We need to split our focus. Some rebels will hold the line here, while others fan out to undermine their strategies." The synthesis of urgency and resolve knitted itself in the air, casting a spell of collective enthusiasm. "Then we split up," I declared, my heart racing against the drumbeat of the collective will. "Mira, you lead the team for intel extraction while Caleb, me, and I will manage the defenses. We'll need to ensure total coverage of the plaza," Caleb added, his voice steady. "They won't expect us so soon." "Then let's show them the truth behind the power of rebellion," I replied, feeling every moment charged with reckless hope. The clock ticked down silently as we carved rolls, assigning the loyal within our ranks to ensure the safety of our newly reclaimed turf. It felt like destiny pulsed through our veins, calling forth a profound transformation. The birth of a collective spark, ready to set Gaia's city aflame with reclamation. The air crackled as we established our positions, wearing relics of lost technology as armor against the inexorable tendrils of oppression that twisted through the city. Stay alert, I reminded everyone, the weight of camaraderie blooming around us. Together, we take our city back. The fine-spun threads that connected us pulled tighter, resonating with every heartbeat as we readied ourselves for the inevitable clash against a regime that had long silenced the cries of humanity. The impending storm brewed beyond the horizon, and as the world around us began to shimmer into motion, I couldn't shy away from the tension rising in my chest. We worked with the fervor of children clinging to the last vestiges of a sunset, each life preserved forging a new connection with the dawn. Asterisk, 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 as the morning pressed into afternoon, the sun hung high in the sky as a mellower but no less potent promise of liberation. FAR in the distance, the distant thumping of armored boots reverberated against the ground, a rhythm that signaled the central enforcers nearing. The once bustling street was now met with the cacophony of escalating intensity, as we transformed our surroundings a formidable barricade rising from the dust where long, forgotten memories lingered. Positions, Caleb shouted as we prepared to take our stands. Tension weaved itself within our throats as determination blazed brightly in our hearts. We had become the tide rising to meet the storm, our shoulders squared against the gale of oppression. Surges of anxiety chased the stillness away, igniting the air as rival forces surged forth. A colored skyline caught my eye, the faint silhouettes of the first enforcers surfacing like ominous specters from the shadows, and with them came the roar of machinery stuttering back to life, an army rising against the echo of our collective fight. "They're coming," I called, gripping my makeshift weapon tight. The shadows that spun across crumbling walls twisted in unpredictable patterns, and the streets we once occupied, our families, our lives, all echoed silently in agony. Me at my side, died and strong, steadied herself against the ruin, embodying youthful tenacity. "We're ready," she exclaimed, a spark flaring in her gaze. And just like that the air turned electric as with a war cry. The central enforcers surged forward. The sound erupted into thunder, a wave of darkness consuming the street, a merciless crescendo of warfare, thrumming against the remnants of our broken lives. "Hold the line," Caleb commanded, the signal breaking through the storm as we steeled ourselves for impact, fighting against the tide of despair pouring from the machines that quelled our cries for too long. Together, we dug our feet against the ground, unfurling our identities as the shadows expanded. Defiance sparked in our very souls. The first blast erupted from the ranks, a cruel reminder that this would not be a comfortable clash, but we were ready as we rose to meet it. "Fire!" I yelled, my voice rising above the chaos, and the weight of humanity swept out in a counterattack. Shots erupted, crashing through the atmosphere, sending echoes weaving into the air. A melody threatening to pierce the very heart of the oppressive forces descending upon us. The echoes of vibrant humanity harmonized as veteran and novice fighters alike retaliated, defiance spearing through grief. Caleb moved with fluidity beside me, fired rounds with fierce precision, illuminating the courage behind us. Hot breath surged through my lungs as I stepped forward, driven by a determination deeper than fear, a thread that wove through our joint history, flickering defiantly amid calamity. The central enforcers bore down like a wave of ruination. Their iron shells gleamed beneath the sun, menacing machines stomping toward our barricades. Each burst that sounded rang like fate, clashing bravely against the foes entwined in mechanized hearts. They flared bright, but we fought with something far more potent, the fire of fury that had simmered for far too long. I felt Mira at my side, her whispers igniting the air, pushing me into lucid moments of purpose. "We have to pull back," she shouted, gracefully leading the remnants of our forces as we pressed against the encroaching enemy. Yet we fought not only against them. We were fighting against the system that had dared crush our humanity beneath iron fists. Each shot fired was a hymn sung in defiance, every breath shared. The mantra of survival reverberating through us, all as we stood against the encroaching hordes. As we pushed harder against the swell of the tide, a surge of red light flashed toward my peripheral vision. One of the drones hovering amid the ranks, surveying the chaos. "Head for the control panel," I directed, my voice puncturing through the haze of adrenaline. Distraction became our weapon as I led our team, cutting through the remnants of enemy ranks toward the holographic display flickering just beyond sight. "We can take down their treatments and heal the entire line." Caleb lunged forward, determination sparking in every muscle. Let's go, but time felt like liquid sand. The drone pursued relentlessly. Each mechanical were chasing the sound of our breaths. I thrust forward, crossing the gap that separated us from salvation. Asterisk, 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 the central enforcers pressed over one another, their machines clanking with sickening authority. Yet as I reached the control panel, muted around me, the world around softened into fragments, splitting apart. I could hear the shouts of my comrades pushing against the tidal wave of oppression. It brought back melded memories of laughter, of shared grief, and now bold ambition brimming within each heart. The holographic display flickered inconsistently, yet a spark of hope ignited through the chaos as I moved instinctively, hands dancing across the console in a fevered rush. Come on, I pressed, fighting against the storm vultures eager for prey, battling the frenzy surging through me. Suddenly, I felt a crack beneath my fingertips as the panel flickered to life, dashed light illuminating my face. "Yes," I shouted, connecting to the Enforcer's central network, and felt the data swirl around me. "I'm in." "What did you find?" Caleb shouted from beside me, amidst the clattering sound of fight against the surge. The tactical displays flickered before my eyes, a battleground alight with movement. I could see their strategies unfolding before me, the maps displaying our positions, but also the vulnerabilities flickering like sentences longing to be freed. "It's beautiful. With this, we can turn the tide," I marveled, almost losing myself to the revelation blooming in my mind. "We can counter their plans. It shows us weaknesses." I could hear the tension light up around me, a wave of determination reinforcing the barriers of possibility as fragments of old plans laid bare in front of us, twinkling with potential as my heart raced. "Get the others," I yelled suddenly, snapping out of my awe. "We'll show those enforcers what we can do." As I began downloading the necessary intel, security alarms blared, cutting through the air like a ravaging storm. "We're losing time," Mira shouted, moving strategically alongside Caleb, fighting off the staccato advantage pressing closer. I felt time weaving through us like twilit remnants of the fading day, days we had almost lost. "We have to push out with this. Are you ready? We can cover you, in the name of all we've fought for," Caleb yelled, now a portal of rage mixed with irrepressible hope. And as we began to reconfigure the permissions, I felt every thread of our shared struggle unraveling at that moment, forging a new path forth, one that would lead us against the layers of the past that had always sought to define us. Little by little the barriers shifted, something akin to fear evaporated into anticipation, a sweet potion forged in unity, and suddenly, like a burst of sunlight through an unforgiving storm, the data downloaded entirely. Our rebirth gathered strength amid the chaos. "Let's go. Pull back, everyone," I shouted, my voice wielding the weight of hope held in the air. "We'll turn this tide." The storm of despair roared more fiercely, but amidst the chaos we surged forth, a chorus of resistance echoing beneath the might of our unified souls. Our fight wasn't just for today, but for everything, the centuries of lost voices, of dreamers woven into the fabric of this chaotic society. The walls felt alive as we stole glances amidst the overwhelming darkness, our spirits intertwined against the growing threat. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk outside, the cacophony erupted into multi-layered chaos, the crack of defenses and the charged atmosphere dancing toward annihilation. As we regrouped, the lightning dawn kissed the remnants of Gaius City, illuminating our faces, familiar strains across our weary brows, as we stood tall against the impending depths of oblivion. The dispersing light fueled our resolve. Every moment became a prayer toward change, a promise that stubbornly grasped our fragile lives, hoping to flicker into radiant existence. With a newfound yearning within us, we charged toward the fray. The pieces began to align, igniting the heart of rebellion. "Well, let's take the fight to them, together," I shouted, igniting my voice amidst the surge, clenching the bonds that tied us together, everything coalescing from shared memories into the kinship of newfound fights. For me, for Gaius, for freedom. The battle handily throbbed against the backdrop of our lower ground, raw energy rippling beneath my skin, igniting us like electric wildfire as we pushed forward into the maelstrom of conflict. Each heartbeat reverberated through time and space as we moved deeper into the throng. Determined, resolute, we surged as the embodiment of rebellion against the oppressive rule that had stolen too many. The fight melding our history into a force of immeasurable hope. As we stood at the nexus of the storm, this moment became our truth. Our destiny sang clearer than silence had ever dared to whisper. Gaius City, our city marred by scars yet pulsing with untamed potential, had answered our call. The battle awaited, and together, as one defiant heartbeat, we were ready. Forward, the chorus broke across the battlefield, our hearts racing in unified crescendo against the approaching tide of clashing steel. The dawn rang in my ears, shimmering with something profound, the line between despair and glory, between lost dreams and the reclamation of hope. This was our final stand. United, we moved forward into the expanding embrace of eternity. The roar of battle pursued us as we charged toward the fray, pain and fury igniting a fire deep within. Yet it was our connection as a family that ignited that flame, propelling us forward like a comet streaking into chaos. And as we faced the merging tides of our reality, our collective defiance projected into the depths of uncertainty amid flickering shadows, one truth resounded above the storm: we would fight for what was good, what was ours, and ultimately forge our connection anew. The story of Gaius City was far from over. As it plunged further into the chaos, our hearts sang in unison, ready to rewrite the narrative that had sought to bind us in chains. We would refuse that fate. Together, we would rise. And so we did, fueled not just by dreams of the past, but by the promise of what was yet to come. A future sculpted by our wounds, held together by our unwavering resolve. It lay ahead, just beyond the horizon of fire and flame. This was our moment, our legacy, a reckoning written in the stars above as we plunged onward, united with the heart of a city waiting to be reborn. The chaos of the battlefield pulsed like a living entity, enveloping us as if it were an unwelcome fog. My heart drummed steadily in my chest. The fate of Gaius City lay in the hands of those who dared to claim it. Each breath was heavy with dread, charged with an energy that surged within our ranks, binding us with a collective resolve to resist and reclaim what was rightfully ours. Through the din, I caught glimpses of our allies battling the central enforcers, steel clashing against steel, bodies moving with the choreography of survival, every decision steeped in the desperation of our plight. Caleb, me, and I surged forward, navigating through the chaos. My senses heightened. Every noise amplified a shout here, a thud there, the unmistakable hiss of weapons firing in the distance, the cries of defiance making the air thick with the weight of rebellion. We need to secure the center, I shouted, trying to carry my voice above the cacophony. Create a flank and move strategically. We can't let them circle us. At that moment, a metallic whirring caught my attention, slicing through the increasing noise. A drone hovered ominously just above, its glinting sensors sweeping across the tumultuous battleground. Look out, I yelled, darting sideways. A blast shot out from the drone, and the enemy forces flinched as the projectile detonated nearby, sending a shockwave surging through the space, creating a cloud of smoke and debris. Caleb staggered but steadied himself next to me, and I saw the fire igniting within his eyes, the readiness to engage burning clear amidst the panic. We can't let them observe us like this, he shouted, anxiety lacing his voice. Let's take that drone down before it reports our position. With a nod, we pivoted onto our target, using the wreckage for cover as we inched closer. I could see me beside me, her small frame laden with purpose. She was ready. Mira's voice echoed along the adjacent barricade, cutting through the haze. "I've got the comms active. We can feed misinformation into their systems. Hold tight while I create a diversion." The flicker of her hands moved against the control panel she had secured, a dance showcasing her determination, orchestrating our next wave of attack. "I'll join you," Caleb exclaimed, ready to follow her lead. I hesitated a moment, my heart racing against the backdrop of violence, but there was no time for doubt. I locked eyes with me, and we forged ahead toward the drone. We pursued the erratic drone, its sensors flitting around, trying to regain focus amid the chaos that surrounded us. "Get ready." I ground my teeth as we circled the remains of an old vehicle, positioning ourselves behind it. Heart thrumming with adrenaline, my fingers tightened on the improvised weapon we had salvaged earlier. A rusted pipeline we transformed into a makeshift blaster. Suddenly the drone hovered above us again, scanning. "Now me," I shouted. She needed no further coaxing. With surprising agility, she raised her blaster and fired. A concentrated bolt of energy shot out, striking the drone squarely in its mechanical underbelly. It sputtered and faltered for a moment but didn't drop entirely, reeling from its momentum. It veered slightly off course, but the sensors had detected our position. "Caleb, we need to distract it again," I called out. He gritted his teeth, ready to leap into action. Just as the drone regained stability, a barrage of fire erupted toward us from the enforcers on the ground. My heart sank. They were closing in fast. My senses blared like alarms. "Me," I shouted, grabbing her arm. "Stay low and move behind the vehicle." Our bonds had grown tight, an inseparable entity forged in adversity, and as I pulled her down, I could feel her resolve sharpen as the adrenaline coursed through both of our veins. The drone burst through the smoke cloud, aiming its laser sight directly on our position, and I braced for impact. "Formation now," Caleb shouted from our side, rallying our scattered group toward a shared goal. We swarmed against the nearest barricades, finding solace in the moment, our collective will igniting like a flame in the dim light. "Enough is enough," Mira called from the control panel, adrenaline heightening her voice. "I'm redirecting their transmissions. Hold them off, or we won't survive." The desperation in her tone ricocheted through me, weaving itself into the fabric of my resolve. "Let's take care of the guard by the drone. They'll never see it coming," I shouted, rallying our combined energies as the tide of our frustrations surged into action. On three, as we prepared to move, the tension felt electric around us. "1, 2, go," I shouted, and we barreled toward the stationary guard, just slightly turned, intent on covering the chaos. A wounded predator stalking our weakened prey. Caleb and I flanked the guard. His startled expression fell away as our makeshift weapons took full measure of the moment. We crashed against him, a tidal wave of resolve crashing over our shared fury. And together we pushed him back into the debris, taking control of our surroundings. In unison, we found rhythm in our movements behind the wreckage, charging against waves of disbelief that washed over us whenever we emerged from the fray. The battle was more than reclaiming the city, more than just a diversion regarding our lives. It was a reminder of everything we had lost. As each second swelled into eternity, I could feel the pulse of the city thrumming beneath my feet, an organic rhythm connecting us all. The fervent cries of families, the echoes of history swirling in the dust, mingling with our growing defiance against a society hell-bent on oppression. "What's next?" Me asked, every ounce of determination reflecting in her gaze, her presence sparked with renewed energy. The rhythmic attack kept pressing on us, voices cold above the turmoil, shaping futures and illuminating what lay beyond this moment. "We take control of their command," I replied, my own heartbeat steadying as I found the strength in her unwavering gaze. "We need to push forward with our mission, seize the information we uncovered, and inspire those still within the city. We shall fight for freedom, the heart that beats against the relentless tide, and through the murky instant, as the mass of bodies moved together in synchronicity, I felt moments converge. The bonds of hope crafted deep within our souls, giving birth to this orchestra of resistance. Every person pushed through the remnants of their past to claim the weight of their reality, scattering the seeds of optimism across battle-scarred terrain. We charged forward, adrenaline mixing with purpose, the flames of defiance burning inside us as we fell in stride together. The family we had slowly become, blossoming against the throes of despair. As our footsteps echoed through the remnants of Gaius City, I knew that it was not just about seeking revenge against the darkness. It was about igniting the flame of light again, a beacon of promise in a world desperately yearning for salvation. The moment crystallized our fight was not merely a desperate plea for survival, but a manifest destiny to reclaim our humanity, to rise against despair as we fought hand in hand toward the horizon painted with rebirth. Together, I proclaimed as we surged into the fray, the fires of courage igniting our souls as we moved further into the uncharted realm of chaos ahead. It was a battle not just for our lives, but for the essence of life itself. A war for Gaius City, for me, for those who dared to dream beyond the constraints of oppression. In the depths of the storm, we began to rise. In unison, we took back our city, ready to reclaim the heart of Gaius, resisting the dark tide forever more. As the echoes of our fierce determination reverberated through the remnants of Gaius City, we surged forward, an unyielding force. Each step felt heavier, charged with the memories of our struggles and the weight of the lives woven into the fabric of our existence. The uncertainty ahead shimmered like a mirage, relentless yet rewarding, offering visions of liberation that ignited the flames of our rebellion. The plaza was alive with chaos flares of energy coursing over barricades, frenzied shouts, and the rhythmic thrum of boots on urban concrete. The central enforcers pressed in like a tide, but now in our hearts hope had found its pulse, the heart of a unified resistance that refused to retreat. "We need to get to the command center," I shouted above the swirling din, scanning the chaos unfurling in front of us. "That's where we can gather intel and disrupt their chain of command." Caleb nodded resolutely, the fire of rebellion in his gaze. "Let's break through, cut them off at the source." Me's small hand gripped mine, a lifeline amidst the whirlwind. "I want to help. I can make a difference." Her voice was steady, but the tracks of worry beneath her words were ever present. I turned to her, feeling the weight of every emotion surrounding us but recognizing the strength woven into her desire. "You're already making a difference, Me. Let's do this together." As we pressed onward, weaving around debris and ducking beneath blasts of energy, the shifts of battle morphed into a dance of resolve, each pulse hammering against the oppressive backdrop of our reality. With every step, we gathered comrades, voices raised in solidarity as we traversed towards the looming command center, its metallic edifice stark against the smoke-strewn horizon. In the distance, I could see the flicker of lights emanating from the command center, their beacon signaling the hub of operation for the enforcers. It was a target we had both dreaded and yearned for. If we could disable their communications and redirect their transmissions, we might take back what they had long stolen from us. "We're almost there," I yelled, my voice drowned out only by Caleb's echoing call as he rallied our hardened line of fighters. We charged ahead, bolstered by the fierce spirit carried from every step we'd fought together, rebirth stemming from the ashes of despair. As we approached the entrance to the command center, the sound of mechanized sentries patrolling echoed in our ears, moving shadowy sentinels that felt like knives against our hope. The clash of steel rang out. I could feel the vibrations of mutual breaths echo deep into the core of the city. "Brace yourselves," I commanded, the adrenaline coursing through me like wildfire. "Everyone, break into teams and cover each other." We burst through the entrance, plunging into the illuminated command center, the weight of the world pressing against our backs. Inside, rows of screens flickered with data, myriad of lines dancing and shifting amid the symphony of electronic voices dictating orders and surveillance feeds. "Access the main terminal," I shouted, pointing toward a console at the center of the hub. We need to redirect their systems. On it, Caleb shouted, weaving through the frantic movements of enforcers rushing to defend their home turf. As he darted forward, me and I followed, holding the line against the encroaching guards, the surge of resolve pulsating through every fiber of our beings. I felt the warmth of our shared fire, a hope threading through us all fiercely, and lifted my improvised weapon high. "Keep pushing," I echoed, cutting through the ranks of our adversaries. "Watch out," me shouted just as a guard swung at her, and I reacted instinctively, blocking the strike and shoving him aside. The close call ignited blaze against the back of my mind. We could not falter now. Amidst the chaos, a blast of blue energy surged toward us, narrowly missing Caleb as he tackled the guards surrounding the terminal, every movement a showcase of raw determination fueled by grief and dreams. My heart hammered as I fought beside him, our rhythm synchronized in every lunge and parry as we pushed through the overwhelming weight of our attackers. "Hold the line," I commanded again, summoning the energy pulsing within our small enclave. Almost there, Caleb grunted, fingers racing over the controls, desperate to establish a connection that would ripple through the enforcer's network. The screens flickered. A blaring red light pulsed across the command center, signaling our approach. Then, an alteration. "They're trying to adapt," Caleb yelled over the thrum of alarms. Flames erupted behind him, illuminating Mi's face, sharp and determined as she kept firing at the encroaching guards. "Just a little longer, we can do this," Mi kept calling, a wild spirit igniting within her small frame as she fought back with her brother and me. The battleground pulsed with chaotic fervor as I faced down another enforcer, the tension rippling through the air. Shouts rumbled like thunder, the echoes of our fight swallowing fear. For me, I bellowed, remembering the spark she had become, amplifying the radiance against the desolation. A culprit of lost dreams. With one final push forward, the screens erupted with static, data surging through the terminals as the screens flickered to life, scrolling vital information and illuminating opportunities. "Got it," Caleb shouted. "Why?" Died as complex readings blinked before him. As the tide began to shift, flickering lines of date blared warnings throughout crumbling systems. "We'll distort their communications," he shouted, hands dancing above the control deck, igniting passion against the oppressive darkness clamoring to close in around us. "Hold tight," he cried, and the room swelled with vulnerability. Every conviction to reclaim Gaia's city ignited within us, spiraling into the future with the strength of 1,000 voices. In unison, we aligned together, channeling our incredible resolve through every word, our collective humanity woven into every action. "We are not nameless victims," I called, adrenaline surging with every syllable. "We are the heart that beats against oppression." Together, the screens flickered, symbols swirling into the air, and then a cascade of darkness, static blasted outward, crashing against our senses, a human anthem over the mechanical storms attempting to suppress our voices. "Yes," Mira shouted from the console, sending energy surging through the systems. At that moment, chaos and despair filtered through the crackling air. "I can't hold them much longer," Caleb yelled, but his resolve sparked further as the realization spread. In that moment, the Enforcer's network flashed before us, the power surging toward the fate we longed to reclaim. Redirecting their signals now, Mira called again, every word a shot of adrenaline as we fought against the encroaching tide of guards pressing upon us. But the space between victory and failure pulsed ominously. The delicate line thinned as the Enforcer's forces surged forward ominously. "Move back. We'll secure the perimeter," I shouted, adrenaline pouring through my calls as I felt the weight of each comm, pushing against despair. The fire igniting within our hearts were words, but here they transformed into action, the lives of every brave soul rising to meet the challenge of reclamation. "We'll make it," Caleb shouted once more, stealing a glimpse at me as I fought to slow the advancing threat. "Keep pushing forward. We can gain the upper hand." Every flickering sound sent shivers of motion through my body. There we were, isolated, yet inside the chaos, I felt the fire of hope blaze profoundly, the spirits of those who had suffered reigniting the fiercest blaze, a burning tapestry of existence and dreams. As we pressed back, the echoes of the plaza projected into existence those streets full of life we had known. For Gaius, me hollered, her determination resounding through me, an anthem echoing through the chaos. In that instant, the tide began to shift, signals redirected into the ether, and the enforcer command fell into disarray. The systems battled against splintering chaos, and slowly we saw opportunity spiraling before us, a chance to strike and bolster the fight back. And now, push. I called as together we surged forward, rallying against the forces that had long plagued us. Rejected, forgotten, diminished, we pushed against every darkened veil that sought to consume us, armed with our history, our struggle, our love. Onward, Caleb shouted, his voice carrying a chorus of resolute energy as we charged against the forces, sweeping into the heart of their systems and saturating them with surging agency and determination to reclaim who we were. As we stormed into command, the ruling energy pulsed through the air, electrified by our courage, transforming what had once been specters of despair into a tapestry woven from threads of humanity, forming paths forged against tyranny. One by one, the enforcers fell abandoned by the shadows in the wake of the rebellion we had ignited. The clash of metal hit the ground, the echoes of our resistance crashed against the walls of the command center. Threatened shadows pressed into obscurity, only to be met by a rising chorus of triumphant voices, a bond carved from shared struggles, cascading like the dawn. Finally, in that moment, reality froze, the screens flickered to life, the swirling data revealing the vulnerabilities we had sought to expose. The pulse of hope ignited within each corner, gathered fears crystallizing into an incandescent bidding of power. "We've turned it," Emer exclaimed, excitement electrifying her voice. "The network is tearing apart. You did it." I shouted, my voice glinting with an incredible sense of renewal as I shared a glance with her. "Together we've shifted the tides." In the intense aftermath, a bright light exploded from the center of the command. The energy cascaded around us, rapping against the losses that threatened to consume us, our fight resonating within the very essence of the machinery desperately trying to recover. But it was too late. "Fall back, fall back." The central command blasted to life, themes of chaos erupting as the once commanding enforcers flailed desperately against the storm we had unleashed. "This is our time, move," I shouted, the air crackling with adrenaline, and we surged forward, bodies united against the overpowering waves of loss, ready to take back what was ours. Into the fray we pushed, lights flickering and alarms echoing louder. This was it, our moment to reclaim the future that had been stripped from us. Forget our fears. We are the future in this battle. Forward, Caleb echoed, bracing himself as we charged toward the overwhelming darkness. As we surged forth, the battleground transformed into a cacophony of light, synchronized motion woven through our humanity. No longer bound by past constraints, we charged through until we could pulse against the whispers of silence. The air surged within us, collective consciousness, springing back the shadows as we fell into the tide of movement. A reclamation they'd never seen coming. Our footsteps rung like thunder, a hymn rising to the dawn of a hidden horizon, unraveling before us like banners alight with fire. "We are family," Me called, her voice vibrant, threading through the destruction. A chorus of existence igniting amid the lingering shadows, and together we would rise, bound by survival, igniting a tapestry woven from loss turned to promise, reclaiming our spirit against all odds. And then, as we reached the final echo of the command center, I exhaled, pushing our disparate friends ever onward. The dawn igniting past the horizon as the world took flight in the extraordinary dance of life. Amidst the charge, we pressed against the light, hoping to reclaim every dream lost beneath layers of dirt. The command faltered indeed, the energy of our resilience carving a pathway to our future. Together, echoed in the vibrant rhythm of our hearts, binding us against the rushing tide as we charged toward our destiny, illuminated by the light of every soul entwined in the unfolding revolution. A promise stretching out in the dusky hue before us, finally reclaiming what was ours. And so we flew like flames through the urgency of destruction. A family, an assembly of hopes seeking to write a new legacy upon the fabric of Gaia's city, determined to carve our names among woven threads of history. This, after all, was where our fight began, wrested not from shadows, but ignited in the very heart of all we had long desired. And as we surged forth into the light of dawn, we knew our story was far from over. It was only just beginning.